Safety of our students, our parents, and our community is #1 priority.
The DISD superintendent is trying to calm worried parents after the district revealed several students were exposed to the Dallas Ebola patient. Good evening, I'm Clarice Tinsley. DISD says 5 children who attend 4 different schools in Northeast Dallas had contact with the Ebola patient. Those children are now being monitored. The health department says none of them are showing symptoms at this time. We're also learning about a communication breakdown at Presbyterian Hospital the first time that patient arrived there. Fox 4's Sean Rabb is at the hospital where the patient is now in serious condition.
Yeah, Clarice, we've learned a lot about that patient today, who he is and how he may have contracted this potentially deadly disease. We also learned about a critical communication breakdown here at Presbyterian, as you alluded to, that allowed him to leave the hospital when he first showed up on Friday, September 26th. As a result of that, the school district is now scrambling, and Governor Perry came to Dallas today to try to reassure parents and turn a positive spin on a troubling story.
We have the 5 students who attend 4 different schools in Dallas ISD.
5 students who may have had contact with the Ebola patient at home over the weekend attend 4 DISD schools: Conrad High School, Tasby Middle School, Hotchkiss, and Dan D. Rogers Elementaries. Governor Rick Perry trying to put parents at ease about the public health concern in public schools.
I know that parents are being extremely concerned about that development. But let me assure these children have been identified and they are being monitored, and the disease cannot be transmitted before having any symptoms.
The patient is Thomas Eric Duncan, according to Liberian health officials, a Liberian national who flew out of Liberia September 19th, arriving at DFW the next day.
The executives at DFW have looked at the flights and examined exactly what happened at that time, and feel that there was 0 chance of anyone getting contaminated.
The New York Times reports Duncan quit his shipping company job in Monrovia because he'd gotten a visa to the U.S. and was coming to be with his family. September 15th, his landlord's daughter got very sick, and Duncan helped carry that woman to the hospital. She died the next day. Then the landlord's son became ill and he died. At least 2 others in the same neighborhood who may have had contact with the woman also died.
That checklist was utilized by the nurse who did ask that question.
Texas Health Resources VP Dr. Mark Lester says Duncan was asked if he had traveled and from where when he brought himself to Presbyterian Friday, September 26th.
Regretfully, that information was not fully communicated throughout the full team. And as a result, the full import of that information wasn't factored into the clinical decision-making.
Decision-making that sent him home with antibiotics rather than admit him, isolate, and begin testing for the potentially deadly disease until he was brought back by this ambulance 2 days later on Sunday morning. But Lester would not call it a mistake.
I would call that not factoring all the information among the team that was present, so that all the information wasn't present as they made their clinical decision.
This is not a quarantine.
Dallas County Medical Director Dr. Christopher Perkins says 12 to 18 people are being monitored by the health department. The students have to stay home from school 21 days, but those being monitored are not on lockdown.
Those close contacts, they're being monitored as far as symptoms, as far as measuring their fever, see their temperature to see if they're developing a fever. This is going on a daily basis.
And tonight, Clarice, at least one teachers organization, the National Education Association, sent out an email saying they want those students quarantined. They don't feel as if monitoring alone is enough.
Sean, who's doing the monitoring? Is it the parents in the house doing the monitoring? Are health department officials going in to check on the children? And is everyone else in those households having to stay inside as well?
Right. The health department, locally the health department and the Centers for Disease Control, those folks are on the ground. They are the boots on the ground. They are going to the homes every day. They are taking the temperatures of those, the students anyway, every day. Now what they have to do is stay home from school. But again, it's not a lockdown. So can the adults, can the parents go to the store, go get a pizza, those kinds of things? The answer to that question is yes. Again, remember, the only way the Ebola virus can be transmitted, can be passed, is through close bodily contact, coming into contact with bodily fluids. And so in normal contact, without exhibiting symptoms, no one is contagious, no one has the virus, and so yes, they can move back and forth but cannot go to school for at least the 21 days that they'll be watched.
Okay, and then Sean, when Duncan went to the hospital on Friday, September 26th, he told the nurse that he was talking to that he had been in Liberia?
Right, Clarice, here's what we know. The Centers for Disease Control 3 weeks ago or so sent out to all major hospitals a protocol, a checklist. Here's what you ask when folks come in exhibiting these kinds of viral-like symptoms. So the nurse asked the questions to him. If he'd come from Africa, if he had traveled, where did he come from? He gave her the affirmative answer, told her he'd been to Africa, but that information, according to Dr. Mark Lester, was not relayed, if you will, to the rest of the clinical team. Now, we don't know whether it was the nurse who didn't pass it on or whether she told someone else and they didn't pass it up the chain. At any rate, not having that critical piece of information, they were giving him a prescription for antibiotics on Friday, September 26th, and sent him home, where of course he got sicker over the weekend and came in contact with those 5 students from elementary to high school age.
All right, Sean, thanks for the coverage.